The great hall of Alaoma glittered with golden lamps and the laughter of maidens. Prince Obinna sat on his cushioned chair, watching them dance. Each one wore her finest wrapper, each smile practiced to perfection. A maiden leaned close and whispered, "Whoever marries you will never know hunger again, my prince." Her words were honey, but they tasted bitter to him. That night, alone in his chambers, Obinna looked at his reflection and saw a crown, not a man. He went to his father's room and spoke boldly. "Father, if I must marry, let it be to someone who would love me even if I wore rags." The king laughed deeply, but his eyes grew serious. "The world is not kind to princes who hide their crowns, my son." 3 days later, Prince Obinna stood at the palace gates dressed in coarse brown cloth. His royal robes were folded away. He carried only a small leather bag of coins and a wooden staff. His loyal friend Nana, a palace guard, stood beside him with worried eyes. "My prince, this is dangerous," Nana whispered. Obinna placed a hand on his shoulder. "Trust me, my friend. I must know if love can find me when gold cannot." They embraced, and Obinna walked into the forest alone. The morning mist swallowed him whole. By midday, he reached a distant village called Imoma. The paths were narrow and red with clay. As he stepped forward, a wooden cart rushed toward him, wheels rattling loudly. Obinna stumbled backward and fell into the dust. The cart driver shouted an apology, but another voice cut through the noise. "Are you blind? Watch where you steer that thing." A woman appeared, balancing 3 clay pots of palm oil on her head. Her wrapper was faded but clean, her face stern yet beautiful. She bent down and offered Obinna her hand. "Strangers should watch where they walk," she said, but her eyes sparkled with mischief. He took her hand and stood, brushing dust from his clothes. "Thank you," he said quietly. She studied him for a moment, then smiled. "You look hungry. Come, I will give you food." She turned and walked away, expecting him to follow. Obinna followed the woman through winding paths until they reached a small compound. She pointed to a wooden stool under a mango tree. "Sit. I will bring you something." She disappeared inside, and moments later, an older woman emerged. "I am Mama Ngozi," she said warmly. "My niece Amara says you need help." Obinna nodded. "I am looking for work, and perhaps a place to stay." Mama Ngozi looked at his hands, rough but not calloused like a laborer's. Still, she nodded. "You can lodge here. But you must work. We do not feed the lazy." Obinna agreed. That evening, he chopped firewood until his shoulders ached. The villagers began calling him Obi the Wanderer. But at night, he overheard whispers. The next evening, Obinna sat outside Mama Ngozi's door, listening. 2 women spoke in low voices near the compound fence. "That girl Amara works too hard. Her family fell from grace, you know." The other replied, "Yes, her father once served the palace. They say he betrayed the crown and fled here in shame." Obinna's heart sank. He went inside and found Mama Ngozi mending a wrapper by lamplight. May I ask about Amara's father?" Her hands paused. She looked at him carefully before speaking. "Her father was a good man. He served the palace loyally, but he was accused of treachery. We fled here to survive." Obinna's chest tightened. Amara was the daughter of a man his kingdom despised. Days turned into weeks. Obinna rose early each morning to fetch water from the stream. Amara often joined him, balancing her clay pot with ease. She taught him to weave baskets from palm leaves, laughing when his fingers fumbled. "You are clumsy for a wanderer," she teased. He smiled. "Perhaps I wandered too much and worked too little." They walked to the market together, selling her aunt's palm oil. Obinna noticed how Amara gave extra measures to mothers with hungry children. She never kept the best for herself. The villagers adored her. And slowly, quietly, Obinna's heart began to open. One afternoon, a traveling merchant arrived at the market. His eyes widened when he saw Obinna. He opened his mouth to speak. "My prince," the merchant began, bowing low. Obinna quickly grabbed his arm and pulled him aside, his heart pounding. "You are mistaken, friend. I am only Obi, a wanderer." The merchant looked confused but nodded and walked away. Amara had been watching from the fruit stand. She approached slowly, her eyes narrow with suspicion. "That man called you something strange," she said. Obinna forced a laugh. "He mistook me for someone else. Travelers see many faces." But Amara did not smile. "You speak like one used to command, Obi. Your words are too careful, too chosen." That night, alone in his small room, Obinna wrote in his hidden journal, "If she learns who I am, will she still look at me the same?" 3 days later, a royal messenger rode into Umuoma on a tall horse. The villagers gathered around him as he announced, "Prince Obinna of Alauma has gone missing. The king offers a great reward for any information." Obinna's blood turned cold. He hid behind the market stalls, watching. The messenger questioned the elders, showing them a drawing of the prince. Amara stepped forward. "I have not seen this man," she said truthfully, for the drawing showed Obinna in royal garments, not rags. She pointed the messenger toward another road. "Perhaps he went that way." The messenger thanked her and rode off. Obinna watched from the shadows, his heart swelling with gratitude. She had unknowingly protected him. He whispered to himself, "If I marry, it will be her." One evening, Obinna and Amara sat by the riverside, watching the sun melt into the water. The air was cool and smelled of wet earth. Amara picked up a smooth stone and tossed it into the stream. "Obi, you are strange," she said softly. "You walk like a poor man, but you carry yourself like a king." Obinna's throat tightened. He turned to her. "If I were not who I seem, would you still walk beside me?" Amara looked at him, her eyes searching his face. "I walk beside hearts, not titles," she replied. Their hands touched, fingers intertwining slowly. The moment was tender, fragile. But from the shadows of the trees, a man watched them with burning eyes. His name was Izudo, and jealousy twisted his heart. Izudo was a wealthy palm wine tapper, strong and proud. For years, he had desired Amara, bringing her gifts of fish and cloth. But she always refused him kindly. Now, seeing her hold hands with a ragged stranger filled him with rage. "A pauper," he muttered bitterly. "She chooses a nobody over me." That night, Izudo followed Obinna through the village paths. He hid behind a tree and watched as Obinna knelt alone in the moonlight, his hands clasped in prayer. "Father, guide me to truth," Obinna whispered. "Help me love without lies." Izudo's eyes narrowed. The stranger's words were too refined, his posture too noble. Something was wrong. Izudo vowed to uncover the truth and use it to destroy him. The next morning, Izudo spread poison through the village like smoke. "That wanderer is a thief," he told the market women. He ran from the palace to escape punishment. The rumors grew quickly. Villagers who once smiled at Obinna now looked at him with cold eyes. Children were pulled away when he passed. Amara heard the whispers and confronted Izudo at the square. "You lie," she shouted. "Obi is a good man." Izudo smirked. "Why do you defend a stranger, Amara? What do you truly know about him?" She had no answer. Doubt crept into her heart like shadow. That evening, Mama Ngozi warned her, "Be careful, child. Not all who smile are friends." But it was too late. Guards arrived at the village gate, led by a tall man in armor. The guards marched into the village square, their spears gleaming. The tall man removed his helmet, revealing a kind face. It was Nana, Obinna's loyal friend. The villagers gathered, murmuring nervously. Nana's voice boomed. "We seek Prince Obinna of Alauma." Obinna stepped forward from the crowd, his heart pounding. Nana and the guards immediately knelt. "Prince Obinna, we have found you." Gasps filled the air. Amara's face went pale. Her hands trembled. Obinna slowly removed the cloth covering his head, revealing himself fully. "I am the man you sheltered," he said, looking directly at Amara. Her eyes filled with tears. "You lied to me," she whispered, her voice breaking. She turned and ran toward her aunt's compound, her heart shattered into pieces. Amara locked herself in her room, weeping. Mama Ngozi sat outside the door, speaking softly. "Child, listen to him. Maybe he had a reason." But Amara would not open the door. Later, Obinna came and knocked gently. "Amara, please. I wanted to be loved for myself, not my crown. I never meant to hurt you." She shouted through the door, "You asked for truth, yet you wore a lie. How can I trust you now?" Obinna's heart broke. He left quietly. As he walked away, Izudo appeared beside Amara's window, his voice smooth as oil. "Do you see now, Amara? He hides behind gold just as his father hid the truth about yours." Amara's tears stopped. "What do you mean?" she asked coldly. Izudo leaned closer to the window. "Your father was innocent, Amara. He was framed by a nobleman who stole from the royal treasury. That nobleman's name was Lord Izudo. My father." Amara's blood ran cold. That night, Mama Ngozi brought out an old wooden box she had hidden for years. Inside was a yellowed scroll, sealed with wax. "Your father gave this to me before he died," she said. "It proves his innocence." Amara unrolled it carefully. The scroll listed payments, dates, and a confession. Her father had discovered the theft and was silenced before he could speak. The royal seal was stamped at the bottom. Amara's hands shook. "The same bloodline still tries to destroy us," she whispered. She stood, her jaw set with determination. Amara wrapped the scroll carefully in cloth and tied it to her waist. "I am going to Alauma," she told her aunt. Mama Ngozi tried to stop her. "Child, it is dangerous. They may not listen." But Amara's eyes burned with purpose. "My father's name will be cleared, even if I must stand before the king himself." She left at dawn, walking the long dusty road toward the capital. Meanwhile, Obinna returned to the palace, his heart heavy. His father, the king, waited for him in the throne room, his face hard as stone. "You abandoned your duties for a foolish game," the king said coldly. Obinna bowed his head. "I saw truth, father." The king's voice thundered. "Then accept the truth of duty. You shall marry Princess Adana to restore order." Amara reached the palace gates 2 days later, exhausted and covered in dust. The grand walls towered above her like mountains. Drums echoed from within, wedding preparations had begun. Guards blocked her path. "No commoners allowed," one said firmly. Amara's voice rose, desperate. "Tell the Prince Amara of Umuoma has come, with truth." The guards laughed and pushed her back. She fell to her knees, clutching the scroll. Inside the palace, Nana was walking through the courtyard when he heard a faint cry. His ears caught the name Amara. His eyes widened. He ran toward the gates, his heart racing. "Wait," he shouted to the guards. "Let her through." He recognized her from the village. "The prince must see her," he said urgently, pulling her inside. Nana led Amara through marble halls to the great court. Nobles stood in fine robes, whispering. The king sat on his throne, Obinna beside him, his face blank. Princess Adana, draped in gold, stood nearby, smiling. Amara entered, her simple wrapper dusty and torn. The court fell silent. She walked forward and knelt before the king, her head bowed. "Great king, I bring proof of a great injustice." She unrolled the scroll and held it high. Obinna's eyes widened in shock. This scroll proves my father was innocent. He was framed by Lord Izudo to cover theft from your treasury. A nobleman stepped forward, his face pale. It was Izudo's son, now a high official. She lies, he shouted. But the king reached for the scroll. The king studied the scroll carefully, his eyes moving over every line. His face darkened. The royal seal at the bottom was unmistakable. He looked up at Izudo's son. Is this true? The nobleman stammered, sweat dripping down his face. My lord, this is false, but the king's voice cut like a blade. The seal does not lie. Speak the truth, or you will hang. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Izudo's son fell to his knees, weeping. My father did it. He stole and blamed Amara's father to save himself. I knew, but I said nothing. The king's fist slammed the armrest. Arrest him. Guards dragged the man away. The king then stood and declared, Amara's father is hereby cleared of all charges. His honor is restored. The court erupted in cheers, but Amara stood silently, tears streaming down her face. She had won justice, but her heart still ached. She turned to leave. Wait, Obinna's voice called out. He stepped down from the throne and knelt before his father. Father, I will not marry for alliance. I will marry for truth, the woman who risked shame to bring justice. The king stared at his son, his expression unreadable. The nobles gasped. Princess Adana's face flushed with anger. The king studied Obinna for a long moment, then looked at Amara, standing small and brave in the center of the room. Finally, the king spoke. Then earn her forgiveness, my son. A crown means nothing without a heart worthy of it. Obinna found Amara by the riverside outside the city, the same place where they had once held hands. She stood with her back to him, her shoulders shaking. He approached slowly and knelt in the mud. Amara, I came to find love without lies, yet I became the liar. I hid my crown because I feared being loved for gold, not for who I am. But in hiding, I had the one person whose love I wanted most. His voice cracked. If your heart still beats for me, I will spend my days proving I am worthy of it. Amara turned slowly, tears on her cheeks. She looked at him for a long moment. Truth mended is stronger than pride, she whispered. She gave him a small nod, not forgiveness, but hope. The king declared a grand festival to honor those wronged by the crown. He invited the people of Umuma, including Amara's kin. For the first time in decades, the palace gates opened to commoners. Farmers, weavers, and children walked through marble halls. The king stood on the royal balcony and spoke to the gathered crowd. We have hidden truths for too long. Today, we heal old wounds. Drums thundered. Dancers filled the courtyards. Mama Ngozi wept with joy as she stood beside Amara. The king raised his hand for silence. A union shall bind truth and royalty, he announced. The crowd held its breath. Obinna stepped onto the dais, his eyes on Amara. He removed his crown and knelt, placing it at her feet. The crowd gasped. Obinna's voice rang clear and strong. I wore this crown to find love, but love found me when I had nothing. Amara, you saw my heart when I hid my name. You defended me when I was accused. You brought truth when the world chose silence. He lifted his eyes to hers. Will you walk beside me, not as a prince and a commoner, but as two souls bound by trust? The courtyard was silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Amara stepped forward slowly. Her hands trembled as she reached down and picked up the crown. The people leaned in, waiting. She looked at the crown, then at Obinna. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were not tears of sorrow. Amara held the crown in both hands and gently placed it back on Obinna's head. A crown means nothing without a heart that listens, she said softly. Let us lead with both. The crowd erupted in cheers. Women ululated, men clapped, children danced. Even the king wiped a tear from his weathered face. Nana shouted with joy. Mama Ngozi covered her mouth, overcome. In the back of the crowd, Ezudo stood silent, his face filled with shame. He had lost everything, his position, his pride, his chance at love. He turned and walked away slowly, vowing silently to change his ways. The sun shone brighter that day, as if the heavens themselves celebrated. Truth had won. Love had conquered. And the kingdom was made whole again. The wedding took place 1 month later under a sky painted with gold and purple. The palace courtyard was adorned with palm fronds and river lilies. Nobles and villagers danced side by side, barriers broken. Prince Obinna wore white, and Amara wore a wrapper embroidered with the rising sun. The priest blessed their union, and they exchanged vows before the people. I vow to never hide truth from you again, Obinna said. Amara replied, I vow to trust the heart I know, not the crown I see. They clasped hands, and the kingdom roared with joy. As the evening came, they walked hand in hand to the palace balcony. Below them, the city glowed with 1,000 lamps. Obinna whispered, we did it. Amara smiled. No. Love did. The prince who hid his crown found a queen who never hid her heart. Truth may sleep beneath dust for years, but one honest soul can wake it again. Jealousy and lies may rise like storms, but love built on truth will always stand firm. Remember this, titles fade, gold tarnishes, but a heart that speaks truth will shine forever. Humility raises even the lowest to honor, and courage redeems the past. If you seek love, seek it with honesty. If you seek justice, seek it with courage. And if you find both, hold them close, for they are the rarest treasures in this world. Now go, and carry this story with you. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more stories.